When when it's time to begin, it's on the Rewind Around with John Pollock and Wai Ting. The A-Team that makes sense of these things we see in the ring every week on TV. It's Rewind Around for Monday night. Download it Tuesday morning from the Post Wrestling site. It's Rewind Around for Monday night on USA Now on the John and Wai Take the Mic.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Rewind to Raw. It is John Pollock, joined by the hardest part himself, Wai Ting. Hello, Wai.
Hello, John. How are you doing?
Yes. I feel if you were like a Japanese wrestler, that would be your finisher. The hardest part.
What would that move be?
It would be your heel connecting like right under someone's chin.
Okay, right.
Be like a back kick.
Interesting. Okay. Well, yes, of course. Shout out to Bill, our lovely friend from Orlando, for always representing us so well, and some lovely signs, including those of you who might be tuning in at 11 p.m. Eastern, as advertised on one of the signs at the end there.
You know what threw me on tonight's show? There was a guy in the front row holding up this giant QR code. And I'm now trained to believe like this is some kind of angle. And it took me to their like the local Orlando construction business that
I
got a front row seat.
I absolutely scanned it too. I know.
I didn't see the sign for too much longer afterwards either.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, it's really, it's a great way to sneak something in there.
I thought the guy was pretty damn clever. I mean,
oh yeah.
I mean, the timing of it was pretty good, but I feel QR codes are probably going to crack down on those for signs. But very smart on this guy's part. He drove you and me both there to check. I feel like it would be one of those if we didn't. The next surprised you didn't mention the Orlando construction site.
Well, if I'm ever looking for concrete out in Orlando, I kind of know where to go now. So yeah, very effective.
Yeah, some great advertising on tonight's episode of Raw. Did you have a good weekend, Wai?
I had a good weekend. Yeah, I had a very good weekend. How about you?
It's warmed up a bit. Saturday was just a monster here.
Miserable.
Yeah, Friday, Saturday, exceptionally cold. The coldest days of the year so far. But then Sunday, like it went up to like 0 Celsius and felt like spring in comparison. Like your body is so just destroyed by the cold that you just put it up a few notches and suddenly you feel like it was great.
Oh, it's all relative, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, 0 might as well, feel like summer for us right now.
Yeah. So quite the contrast in temperatures. Well, on the site this week we have. Let's go back to this weekend. We had a couple of shows coming out, including Braden and Davey, the Poison Rana crew, on Sunday. Where is Davey as we speak?
I don't know. Like
I'm following him on
Puerto
Instagram.
Rico or something?
I don't know his exact location, but he is off the top of my head. But nonetheless, a true professional, still joining Braden to chat about NXT Vengeance Day on Sunday. They went through the whole show from Charlotte, North Carolina. Did you get to see any of Vengeance Day?
I saw most of the matches. Did not see the women's championship match nor the tag, but everything else I did, yeah.
Yeah, that Wes Lee Dijak match, that had to probably be Dijak's best match. I'm even going to include, like, he had a few of the Keith Lee matches at NXT, but I would say that was his standout performance since coming to WWE. And my God, that spot where Wes Lee countered the powerbomb off the turnbuckle into the Rana, like the Ray Eddie spot, I thought Wes Lee was like his neck. The way he landed there, my God, I like jumped out of my seat, but just got right back up and kept going. And then afterwards, it's like the big injury was a dislocated finger of Dijak's, which looked horrific. Yes. Man, could you imagine if you like cut this guy off in traffic and he gave you that finger? You'd probably throw up.
Yeah, I probably would stop right there. Yeah.
So they said it was not broken, just a dislocation. But these guys had a killer match. It was a match of the show for me.
Mine too. Yeah, really good. And it was a match that I think they both really needed, Dijak especially. The man's really kind of been through a whole lot throughout his WWE tenure. And this was, I mean, the first time he's had a big stage since Retribution to, really show that he's not T-Bar, not just T-Bar at least. And I thought he really did it.
Yeah, I mean, a big week for both of them. Massey getting over to now moving to Raw, signing his contract tonight, and then Dijak over on
And don't forget
NXT.
Michin. You know, what was her name?
Michin was,
Quick test, all the Retribution names.
God, I could not tell you what her name was at all.
I don't know, Pestilence or something.
Pestilence.
Something like
that would have been a great name, actually. Well, yeah. So I thought overall it was a good show. I'm not going to say a great show.
Reckoning.
But Wesley and Dijak was outstanding. That was a tremendous match. Cage match was good. I didn't think it got to the level of like great. Gallus won the tag titles. Was not the team I would have picked out of those four if I was going for them. But it was very cool to hear that Chase U stomp with 5,000 people yelling it as well. Chase U's I always say I really enjoy that act. I don't know if it's for everybody. It's kind of in its place on the show, but I just think Andre Chase is great. And I think this is finally a gimmick that Duke Hudson has had. Like, my God, that guy has gone through the Rolodex of bad gimmicks. And this is one that at least seems to be sticking for him beyond the poker player or many other myriad characters he has had in his run.
I thought presentation-wise, the entire show, made NXT, this new version of NXT, feel the biggest it's ever felt. Getting out of that space and
over 5,000 people. Great achievement for NXT to be able to draw that level on a weekend they weren't piggybacking off of anything. So I think they should be very happy with that number.
The most controversial thing perhaps coming out of the show was maybe their booking of the 2 out of 3 falls match with, Carmella Hayes winning 2 falls straight over Apollo Crews. What did you think of it? Did you have an opinion?
I was let down by the match. It was, number one, I don't think that audience was ready for it to end when it did. Number two, I thought that the Commander Aziz interference, it was like he was coming to assist Apollo Crews, and then he turns on Apollo Crews. It just felt way too overbooked for me for a show that, even though divorced from the TakeOver specials, I still feel they are tuning into these shows for high quality wrestling and less of that kind of, run-ins are fine, but I think they have to be really effective and with people that are going to have you very excited. And I'm sorry, but Babatunde was not going to be getting people off their seats and yelling in anticipation for this. And it was just flat to me. I think 2 out of 3 falls matches are very tough to pull off, but at the very least, I think we've had enough examples that, you do the 2 straight falls, it's very tough, and this audience was not ready for the match to end when it did, and I thought this one definitely underperformed. I
appreciate, people perhaps trying to change our expectations about something like that. But maybe this was, I kind of feel like the first time is going to be met with a lot of backlash and a lot of like sort of flat reactions. Like, it might be setting the stage so that the next time they do a 2 out of 3 falls match, you're given the, expectation that it could end at 2 falls straight. So in that sense, maybe there's a payoff to all of this, but at least for this week, I certainly reacted to, what the hell type of feeling by the end of that match. Not to mention all the weird run-in stuff.
I think that match, it didn't even call for it. Like, just a straight up match would have been fine. They're clearly programming Carmelo Hayes for Braun Breaker. That should probably be the stand and deliver main event, which they went off the air teasing. So I just think it was one where maybe it was just overthinking things, and I don't know if 2 out of 3 falls is even gripping people, and in this case it was a detriment to the match. And then I guess the only other noteworthy aspect, like, they did officially announce stand and deliver for the afternoon of the first night of WrestleMania, which, when you look at the WWE schedule, that probably makes the most sense for them. How do you feel about year 2 of 2 WWE shows in one day on the Saturday? This will be at the Crypto.com Arena, if it is still called that by April.
Looking at how packed their schedule is, I think it makes a lot of sense. It's, probably the only place you could justifiably put another show on their schedule with a 2-day WrestleMania. I mean, it's a 4-day weekend, really, including SmackDown to Raw, right?
How about Monday morning after WrestleMania?
how about 6 a.m. then? Why not? Yeah,
Sunday night at midnight after WrestleMania.
how about right after Wrestle? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I can't think of many other places where you could, justifiably fit an NXT show. But I think it'll be successful. Like at least even if it's not, I think there'll be plenty of people that will be wanting to check it out live just to draw from the pool of wrestling fans that are in attendance in the city, but also watching on TV. Yeah, we'll be coming off after a pretty long night, but wrestling is just sort of like people's appetites for wrestling, I would say, are probably a lot bigger, during that particular weekend. And I think NXT will benefit from just the overall conversation and attention that wrestling has.
Last year, for reference, in Dallas, the Stand and Deliver show, the afternoon of the first night of WrestleMania, it did just under 4,400 and 3,400 paid. Let's go from this past weekend. So if we say 5,000, 5,200 in the building for Charlotte, what do you see Stand and Deliver drawing WrestleMania weekend? Crypto.com for wrestling can hold, I would say, a wrestling setup. It's certainly over 12,000. Off the top of my head.
Yeah. It's hard for me to sense that, even though depends on this card, John. If they can bring some guys over from the main roster, but it's hard for me to see him pack them that much. I feel like it could probably do just as well as this one. I think that that should be your expectation at least. I'm gonna say maybe 6,000, 6,000.
I could see it doing, in that ballpark, for sure. So I think they will do fine for the Saturday afternoon. If anything of the shows I'm looking at, it would be, to me, your Stand and Deliver, and I would say the SmackDown Hall of Fame are the ones you maybe have that question about. But quite honestly, I think it's going to be a pretty big weekend for WWE, and I think it's going to be a pretty in-demand set of tickets for even like your secondary WWE shows. So it's going to be a huge weekend. A little later on, I'm going to go over, already we're getting some of the announcements of WrestleMania week. So we'll go over some of the early announcements that we are hearing. But just getting back to the site, I also did a show with Karen Peterson on Sunday, going through the highlights of both nights of New Beginning in Sapporo. This featured Tetsuya Naito and Shota Umino on the first night, and how Shota Umino fared in his first big main event match. The second night featured Hiromu Takahashi defending the Junior Heavyweight Championship against Yo, and a spectacular match between Tomohiro Ishii and Zack Sabre Jr. These are two young up-and-comers that I think have a strong future in New Japan. This kid, Thomas, is something else. Vertical drop, brainbuster. Dude, the 15-minute time limit, it was so exciting for the ending. Like, I did not know the ending when I sat down to watch this, and that last 3 minutes was so exciting. And time limits they're so underutilized in pro wrestling. When they're done well, it's so dramatic at the end. It's like the end of a basketball game, and you're within, like, it's just one shot to win it. It was great.
What is the shortest time limit you would say, that would create an exciting match?
I've seen great, like the Cinderella tournament, it was 10, and those could be dramatic. I would say, I think for AEW, I think it's tough for their format at 30, because the way that show is structured, it's so hard for them to put aside 30 minutes for a match that you can't really tease time limits too often on Dynamite, just given that they want to get their 5 to 6 matches in. And other than you wipe out some matches that are already announced and do that every now and then. But, time limits are not something they tease all that often in AEW.
How about a 1 minute match?
I feel you could definitely try that. I think
for a TikTok generation, absolutely.
All right. Well, maybe that'll be another title for New Japan to introduce at some point. So that was a really spectacular match, and a few strong matches from the two nights in Sapporo. And then this weekend, it's Osaka, where, yes, it is Kazuchika Okada and Shingo Takagi, but it seems the match everyone's focused on. Jay White, Hikuleo. Loser leaves the country of Japan.
Who do you think?
I don't know. I think that I could certainly see the idea that Jay White loses this match.
I could see either one. And that's what makes the story so interesting. Both of them reportedly have interests from the WWE or beyond. So, yeah, I'll be paying attention at least to the result.
It's the outcome I think everyone's most interested in for Saturday's show. So we'll talk about that more coming up later in the week. But this week, for Post Wrestling Cafe members, we are going to be back on Tuesday night with Rewind Away number 125. We are turning 125 years old, Way.
Is there a term for that?
It is the centennial quarter.
Okay. All right.
And for this week, we are reviewing not one, but 2 episodes of Monday Night Raw from February of 1993. This featured the return of not just Hulk Hogan, but the big one, Brutus Beefcake, back to the World Wrestling Federation in legit his first match since July of 1990 when he had his parasailing accident where his face was literally destroyed. And he comes back in 1993 for this match with Ted DiBiase. It was a very... Would you call it a famous angle? It's an angle that if you were watching at the time, you would remember. I don't think this was a famous angle. This was a very down time in WWF.
Yeah, if I guess if Shawn Michaels in Marty Jannetty in the barbershop window is pretty much kind of towards the top end of memorable angles from that era. This would be way below.
This is
maybe
this is
in Brutus Beefcake's career. This might have been the most popular angle.
This is a remembered angle. You remember it when I bring it up to you. It's like, oh yeah, I remember that. So yes, Brutus Beefcake and his face survived the attack, but it prompts
Thanks
Big
to
Brother,
NASA.
Big Brother Hulk to come back and
NASA. Don't forget NASA being responsible to helping him create a face mask to protect his face at WrestleMania 9.
Well, I don't know if Hulk Hogan saved face with his earlier interview before his comeback on February 22nd. Have you finished these Raws yet?
I finished the first episode.
Okay. Well, we're doing 2 because these are very short episodes. I mean, God forbid, there was a time when you could watch Raw in 45 minutes without commercials.
We just went through the 30th anniversary, so let's go back 30 years to, when Raw was 1 month old?
Raw was a month old, at this time when they were putting a headlock on Hunger, as you can see here in the Manhattan Center. As Hulk Hogan. So that is coming up Tuesday night. We will go back. We will relive those 2 weeks in February of 1993, the setup for WrestleMania 9, and man, just a who's who of WWF roster members of 1993 that we can talk about, including Skinner, one of our favorites from this time period. Then later on this week, we have got Rewind to SmackDown on Friday night. The party is always going on a late Friday night with the gang, with Brian, with Hansi, and many others. Maybe a Brandon from New Jersey call. We could be so lucky. Saturday, it is the return of Postmarks and the return of Martin Bushby. Guy makes more returns than Edge here at Post Wrestling. He will be joining Bruce Lord and David Myers. That will be free on the Post Wrestling Cafe feed. And then Sunday, I'm going to be doing a live post show with Eric Marcotte on Sunday after UFC 284 with, as Dana White promoted it, Alexander Volkanovski against, couldn't even remember Islam Makhachev's name, his lightweight champion. He was having a late night on Saturday, just talking a whole lot of craziness at that press conference, including the man must have been delusional, stating that did you know Power Slap is number 2 among males on Thursday nights?
Okay,
did not. That was a brand new stat that I had not seen, which is really crazy because we get charts every week, every day.
Number 2 in what?
He said number 2 in males. I don't care what demo he's talking about. He is not number 2 in males for Power Slam.
I could see him being a number 2 in several ways, but
yeah. But he said, for all this talk about ratings, they get 10 million views per post on TikTok for Power Slap, which is more than the NFL, which is more than WWE. It's more than the UFC. 10 million per post. I would like to know if I would like that fact checked for sure.
I mean, I could see it being a medium that's kind of, designed for repeated plays on a TikTok. Is that conducive to, TV ratings? I don't know.
Not.
Maybe you should keep the league on TikTok.
Well, then maybe it will be a TikTok only platform. We shall see. Anyway, that is all coming up this week. Postwrestling.com, postwrestlingcafe.com. $6 gets you in the door. Many bonus shows coming at you on a weekly basis to keep up with, including your access to the whole archive of Rewind-A-Ways. If you want to go explore an event in depth, that is your best navigational tool. We have a beautiful master archive list there on the forum that you can just go through your heart's content. Start from 1983 and just make your way through it. It's what Wai is constantly listening to. He is always going back to that 1983 period.
To listen to myself talk?
Yeah. Do you ever listen to yourself?
Almost never. No.
Oh.
Do you?
Sometimes, but I've said I have this. If I speed up if I speed it up, I can listen to myself. I can't listen to myself on one time the speed. I just
Gotcha.
can't.
I'll try that.
Look at this.
Beautiful. Very well kept.
Yeah. Do you like the you're a stickler for style, Wai? How does this look?
It's good. Yeah. Simple, bold, spaced out nicely. What more could you ask for?
Okay. That is it for our stuff. Anything you want to mention, Wai? Like, hit people over the head here. Let them know. What do you want everyone to do right this second?
Keep listening.
Okay. That's all you have to do is just keep listening, and
Yeah.
you will make Wai very happy.
Yeah.
So.
I am looking at the clock, John, where I realize we're about 20 minutes in and still have to get to the news. So that's probably what my main concern
news is very short. Let's get through it. We chatted about Vengeance Day. Saturday, Dana White made an announcement. Conor McGregor is going to be fighting Michael Chandler. Not only are they going to fight, but they are also going to coach the next season of The Ultimate Fighter that will start May 30th. And the last couple of seasons have been streaming on ESPN Plus. This season will be on both the linear channel for ESPN as well as ESPN Plus. And then they're going to fight. Ariel Helwani has reported that it's likely that they will fight in September at 170 pounds. So this would be Chandler going up in weight. And if you have seen any photos of Conor McGregor, this guy is pretty much a blimp at this point. And the idea of him getting down to lightweight seems very far-fetched. As well, Conor McGregor has to re-enter the USADA testing pool, which we have no indication he has done, and then has to go through 6 months of clean tests before he can fight. So he would enter probably very soon, and 6 months, I mean, you can do the math. That takes you to early August, and then they fight the next month. So that is probably what is coming up for him. Number one, Wai, does a Conor McGregor fight grab you in any way?
I would say the answer would be yes. If I wasn't aware of all the other bullshit surrounding him. I think he's still, the biggest star in MMA, and he's at the level now where, these fights are relatively rare, and when they do happen, you want to know if he's going to do well or if he's going to get knocked out. So I think I'll at least be tuning into the result, maybe, a video clip of somebody putting it on a Twitter, but
TikTok?
At this point, maybe a TikTok even, but at this point, I'm not the type to make time to, get together with friends to watch these fights.
It's amazing to see. Maybe not amazing is the word, but not even surprised. But you even joked about it last week, like the timing of Conor putting out the tough coaching role, the potential of that. It just suddenly took so much attention away from the latest allegations and allegedly assaulting this woman on his yacht, and it got it right back on its dual personalities that the public has when they view Conor McGregor. There is this person that has a laundry list of allegations against them that are reprehensible. And then there is the fighter, Conor McGregor, and it seems like there's this distinct line, and all the attention is now back. It's Conor McGregor's coming back, and it's a big deal, and I have no doubt this is going to be a gigantic fight for all parties involved. And it's completely overwhelmed that like any coverage of like the allegations that just came out last week. It's not as though we're talking about something that was 3 months old and has been forgotten about. It was an instant flip of the switch.
As we expected, right? I just, I don't know if any of us really kind of hold combat sports to that sort of standard. And, like there are other.
What would the response be if this was a WWE or AEW performer? Because I think it would be much like if if somebody was
If a WWE wrestler had like that sort of those allegations surrounding them ahead of like a WrestleMania main
just
event, you mean?
not even all of the allegations against McGregor. Let's just keep it to what came out last week about this woman filing a police report in Ireland about stating that she was in fear of her life and was attacked by Conor and leaped off of a boat. And like UFC is not going to get any kind of backlash for this. And maybe WWE wouldn't either, but I feel the fan base would be pretty up in arms if they were utilizing someone that has an active investigation on them.
You know, so much of these discussions that we've been having, whether it be about Conor or Dana or Vince, it all just comes down to power, right? And how much value that they hold for the company in, making money. And he is the most popular MMA fighter that is currently in the market right now, and as a result, I think he holds a lot of audience interest, and even audiences are able to look the other way. It seems,
I don't sense like this is any kind of like debate that's going on among like audiences either about Conor. It's just he's back. It's
he's back. He's going to entertain us. And I again, it's like the audience we're very simple people. So if you're an MMA fan, I can understand. I guess I'm just not that big of an MMA fan now that I can look the other way.
Bellator over the weekend, they had their card on CBS. It was, if you were hoping for a fairy tale ending for Fyodor Emelianenko, it was not that. He was stopped in about 2.5 minutes by Ryan Bader, but a really nice post-fight scene where you had all the legends coming into the cage and having this great like photo op with Bader. You had Randy Couture, Chuck Liddell, Hoist Gracie, Matt Hughes, Mark Coleman was in there, Chael Sonnen. I mean, just a who's who of that last generation of stars that I did not leave this with this sort of depressed feeling. It was a definitive end to Fedor's career, which quite honestly probably should have ended years ago. But nonetheless, it was, to me, something you don't get too often in MMA. It's funny because in pro wrestling, there was a time that they never honored the past, and now it's quite the opposite, where you see so much focus on the past. And in MMA, it's very little outside of the UFC Hall of Fame. I would say like you never get this type of thing. So just to get this kind of a send off, I thought was a cool deal that Scott Coker came up with, and to get this many people all there under one roof, which you'll probably never get these many of these stars all together again.
Mm-hmm, very much so. I mean, this was sort of like my era when I was like a huge MMA fan, and so to see all these faces together in the same room in the same photo was very nostalgic, and I think reminds me of how much time I've lived on this planet when, like, I'm looking at guys like, like Mark Coleman and realizing how old is Randy now? 60?
Randy? No. He's not. He's not that old.
How old is Randy? Honestly,
I'm gonna guess 55. That would be my guess.
Randy Couture. I gotta look this up.
Doing
he was old even when
impromptu age game.
He's 59.
Oh, 59. You're right. He's 60 sounds a lot more than I assumed in my
looking
in my mind.
Pretty good though, I would say at 59 for a guy who used to fight for a living. So I think in many ways isn't it nicer to go off on a loss so that you don't have any questions that are still lingering.
That was what I wrote about today. It's like you're not going back and saying, man, did I leave it all out there? Because that's something athletes battle with retirement. It's something wrestlers, it's like you have all these shortcuts that you can I just get through one more, or can I still be competitive? It's like this was a pretty definitive end, which sometimes fighters need that definitive end that it doesn't leave any questions. And
in wrestling, you don't really have that, right? Because you can always cater a performance to your limitations. And I think that's what somebody like The Undertaker might continue to struggle with. You can always design another performance, but MMA is pretty definitive.
Yeah.
When you don't have it. Yeah.
We will have the final number on Tuesday because that's the real story of this Bellator show. But the overnight, which only monitored between 9 and 11 p.m. of the CBS affiliates that were carrying this, and it did 928,000 viewers and a 0.15 in the demo. So not a very strong number. That said, I would be curious what CBS was even going into this with the expectation of. I mean, you can't compare this to the last era of CBS and MMA. We're talking 13 years ago, the last time MMA aired on CBS. And it's just, you can't be comparing to 13 years ago. Like when the UFC has started airing their prelims on ABC, like they've been doing like 800 to 900,000 viewers, but that's also fragmented because it's airing as well on ESPN and ESPN Plus. And Bellator was on Paramount Plus as well on Saturday night. So, I mean, the evidence will be if they get another show or not. Like this on the surface, this does not look like a very good number for them, but I can't imagine, like Scott Coker was throwing out that he would be over the moon if they could hit 3 million viewers. And when I heard that comment, I was like, why are you even throwing that number out there? Like that becomes this expectation level for your audience. And there was no prayer of them getting near 3 million. But
do they have a hook that would be attractive as Fedor's last fight?
That's the other issue, is that you have some really great fighters in Bellator. If you tuned in, like Johnny Eblen is a really great quality middleweight. He's their middleweight champion. You have a lot, like AJ McKee. They tried to get a lot of their fighters out there, whether it be on the desk or doing features for upcoming cards. I thought they did a good job in that regard, but it's like, I don't even know how much Fedor's retirement was going to be a hook just based on these numbers that we're seeing. So if you're talking about beyond that, the answer is no. I would say it's really dependent on how much you're into fighting and against fighters that you might not be as familiar with. And unless they were to break the bank and try and sign a Francis Ngannou, which financially, I don't know how that one would make sense for Bellator, given what Francis Ngannou can command, and fighting on free television, just it doesn't make a whole lot of economic sense. But will be a very interesting number for Bellator regardless. SmackDown on Friday, they were down 6% on Friday after that huge number going into the Rumble. They did 2,384,000 viewers and a 0.61 in the demo. So I thought they were going to be almost equal to the prior week. So they were down a little bit, but still number one on television. So that's always going to be a win for them. But it was just interesting that prior week, both in Canada and the US, like that was just an astronomical number for the go-home show for the Rumble. And if I was going to assume one would do that number, I would have figured it would be the show coming out of the Rumble, not going into it. But it was still a very, very good number by SmackDown standards this past weekend.
Was there a noticeable difference in competition?
Not really. There wasn't a whole lot going on. Like you had like the All-Star Game festivities were going on. Not the game, but I think it was like just adjacent programming for that. Shark Tank is their big rival on network television. That was a rerun on Friday night. It was just down slightly for the night. Rampage, on the other hand, they fell 11% in viewers with 406,000 viewers, and they fell 20% in the demo to a 0.11. And they did really poorly with women. With women 18 to 49, they were down 43%. Women 18 to 34, they dropped 32%. And then women 35 to 49, they were down 53% from the previous week. So we have not seen the quarters yet. I imagine WrestleNomics will probably have those in the coming days. And you would assume it started off at its strongest point for the Elite match. But putting the Elite on Friday night, it did not boost the overall number. And in fact, it was their lowest viewership in 2 months.
Yeah. No, I'd be curious to see. To me, like the only real kind of like expectations I would have would be to see what an Elite match, how that performed for a Rampage. Everything else on this card is, I think, pretty low on star power. I mean, when you look at this, who would you say? Saraya and Toni Storm, and they were in pretty much, just a squash match. So beyond that, I don't know if there's much that you could really expect for this Rampage other than the Elite.
Yeah, I fully thought the Elite would carry this week's number, but obviously it did not. So the ongoing struggles of Rampage continue. Young Rock also returned on Friday, and I've said before, like I semi keep up with Young Rock. I've got a bunch of the episodes like saved that I'm not trying to keep up to date with it. But first of all, the numbers on Friday, they did just under 1.3 million viewers and a 0.22. So they were last for the night among the big four networks. But I caught the episode from a few weeks ago where Dwayne is going through his issues in the WWF locker room, and he finds out that somebody is talking behind his back, and he assumes it's Triple H that's burying him, but no, it's Triple H's buddy, Chad Frost, who is
Chad Frost,
who is part of the yes, this is the
real person.
No, this is a pseudonym to protect the identity of Hunter's buddy, who is not going to be named, but the most obvious wink to any professional wrestling fan that is watching this, which, given the numbers, pretty low at this point. So I imagine not too many people. I mean, mirror images of one another here. Chad Frost and one Michael Hickenbottom, circa 1997. But
why was he on crutches? Was it?
Dude, if you're trying to watch this with like timelines in mind and stuff, it would drive you insane. Like it's he's got the knee injury, and this is also at the same time that Brian Gewirtz is being portrayed on the show. Brian Gewirtz is not even in the company this early into things. It's just all over the place. It's like
it's an alternate dimension.
Yeah, it's like Rock's turning heel with the Nation, and then he's also doing the Rock concert, which is like years later. It's like, I get it. I'm not like this stickler. It's like they're telling their stories, but in terms of like any kind of historical representation, like this thing is just like almost at the window at this point when it comes to.
Chad Frost is just a lovely like name for somebody that you might not be painting in a very nice picture on a TV show that you're writing.
Yes, well, that's what's going on. Well, that's what was going on Young Rock weeks ago.
Sean looks definitely more like a Chad than a Sean, I would say.
A Chad? Yeah, maybe. Well, there you have it. Young Rock, not doing great, going head up with SmackDown on Friday nights. That is all of your news. We will wrap things up at this point, but as always, go to postwrestling.com, just hit refresh. There's always stuff coming down, and we will go into Raw. Monday night from the Amway Center in beautiful Orlando, Florida.
The former Thunderdome.
The former Thunderdome, one of the homes of the empty arena crowds or those screens. You remember watching those people on the screens all those weeks?
Yeah, it was weird. What a weird time.
There's no era of pro wrestling I never ever want to watch again than that stuff.
Okay. Okay. Let me think about this. Would you rather watch the Thunderdome or 2000 Nitro?
2000 Nitro.
Wow. Really? Okay.
I would get way more entertainment.
What's your most hated era of professional wrestling? What would you say was like the most boring, sort of like nothing era?
There's definitely some late aughts WWE stuff that was pretty
like
tiresome.
So boring you don't even remember to talk about it.
You know, when I'm going through those periods where it was like Vladimir Kozlov was getting pushed in 2009. I mean, you can always like cherry pick stuff at different times if there was something of note going on, but as a general rule, like a lot of just stuff that doesn't really grab you. That would be an era that comes out at you.
And you'd rather watch that than the Thunderdome?
See, I have like if you and I are reviewing something, I would much rather take a 2000 Nitro or TNA from 2008 when things were just nuts, because I will be greatly entertained for the amount that we will have to talk about it. What I don't need is 3 hours of something where at the end of it was you reviewing it by stating, "Yep, this was a show."
Yeah.
Was this more than just a show on Monday night?
I would say so, John. At least in many ways. Yeah.
Well, we started off with the Grit couple, Edge and Beth Phoenix, coming out. And at this point, Edge is just making fun of him being the king of the comebacks and that it's getting silly at this point of all the comebacks that this man makes. They are certainly tallying up as we continue. The Judgment Day is his fault. He takes blame for this. And it was initially designed to elevate talent. You know, some were fearing that it was designed to literally elevate talent into space.
Huh?
That they were. Remember, we were hearing about the supernatural elements of the Judgment Day.
Oh, okay. Well, that's not necessarily space. You know, like it could have been a descent.
Zero gravity.
To the netherworld.
Yeah. Well, he says the fact that all of the members of the Judgment Day are in better spots this year than they were a year ago. And he puts over the 3 members. And oh yeah, there's Dominic too. And Edge is out for revenge. Beth then issues a challenge to Finn Balor and Rhea Ripley. And the Judgment Day come out, but there is no Rhea Ripley on the show as they explain she is off promoting WrestleMania. And Dominic says that the word on the street travels fast. And since you were last here, I served hard time. And Priest says that we're going to make what happened at Extreme Rules look like child's play. And then Priest went to outline what he was going to do to Angelo Dawkins tonight and then go to Elimination Chamber to win the United States title. Unfortunately, this man got so tongue-tied that he just had to do a hard reset right there in the middle of a live promo. He was like me trying to do this show last week.
Oh, you were perfectly fine. Maybe he had internet connection issues.
Well, so anyway, he continued onward. Edge says that Priest complained about not wanting a leader, but now he follows Balor. Balor walks around like he's Jamiroquai and calls it virtual insanity. And then Beth explains that the real reason Rhea isn't here is because I speared her soul out of her body, which I think we would have heard of by now if that was the legit reason.
I think that was the other gimmick. The old Judgment Day.
Could have been. We would have had Rhea. We would have had 2 Rheas. And she didn't come here to talk, but to beat Ripley's ass. So she really should have got like an itinerary from like WWE PR, like of all weeks to show up at Raw. This was the wrong one. And then suggests that they take on Balor and Ripley at Elimination Chamber, and the Judgment Day accepts, and then they go to attack Edge and Beth when the Street Profits come out, and this segment ends with Dominic taking the world's greatest glam slam.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, good effective segment here. Crowd, I think, got really into it. You know, at this point, seeing Edge and Beth together still feels very special. You know, and that's part of, I think, his appeal as a guy who makes a lot of returns. You don't see him for a long time, and when he comes back, he still feels like his momentum as a star is still there. So this was good. I had almost forgotten about that concerto to Beth Phoenix. It feels like so much has happened since then. So it was nice of them to remind us here, and it sets up the match for Montreal, which is bound to get a big reaction. So what's Dominic's role in all this? You know, does he have a match or does he just show up?
He'll probably be in the corner, maybe get him involved in that way. Like he can be loosely tied to this, and then you got Priest in the chamber. So a lot of Judgment Day on this upcoming show. I guess Beth is 100% healed from that concerto.
I mean, that was when? October?
Yeah.
So you can get over a concussion.
Take some aspirin.
Like that, I guess, yeah. Sure.
Our first qualifying match of the night is Damian Priest against Angelo Dawkins. A rare chance to see Dawkins in a singles match, and I continue to be impressed with this guy. I think he just works really hard. He's, to me, one of the more improved guys on this roster. And Dawkins is selling early on, then gets caught on the turnbuckle, and then snaps the arm of Priest, and there's a South of Heaven that's countered into the silencer, and Dawkins hits a swanton off the top. Crowd bites on the finish, but Priest kicks out, and it's a spinning roundhouse kick that sets up the South of Heaven. Damian Priest wins in 11 minutes, and he is going to the men's chamber match. But a nice effort here from Angelo Dawkins as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in these sort of like big showcase moments for Angelo Dawkins, he always continues to impress and, you know, sort of steals the conversation. And even in defeat here, I thought he definitely has continued to show that, you know, he's improved a lot. In a tag setting, I think he's actually been impressing for a long time, but in a single setting, he's showing that he can put it all together as well. So he's really prepping himself for, you know, inevitably, whenever they do decide to break the team up, there's enough ability in him at this point and enough, like, sort of, I would say, desire from the crowd to want to see him succeed that I don't think he'll just get left behind.
Yes. This is our annual discussion of the Street Profits and teaming together. I don't think they're ever going to break them up.
Maybe not. You know,
I feel we've been talking about it for 4 years.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, when I say break up, I mean like maybe like move off into singles capacities, because you can still definitely make the argument that they've reached their ceiling as a tag team. You know, what more can you really? I guess you can go for the New Day or the Usos records if you really want.
Yeah, they've reached their ceiling in the pod, or at least one of them has potentially. Austin Theory pulls up in a Lamborghini for his job tonight of being on commentary. And then they congratulate their best friend, Bad Bunny, for winning the Grammy Award. This is a very one-sided relationship, I know. Not that Bad Bunny doesn't do anything for them, but I mean, is Bad Bunny thanking them for their accomplishments?
Like, you mean like is Bad Bunny promoting, hey, congratulations WWE for being really popular on Vine, you know, or getting
I don't know if they're on Vine anymore. I don't think anyone's on Vine. Is he taking out like billboards at his concerts and it's like, congratulations WWE for having 92 million YouTube subscribers?
I don't know if he's promoting those stats, but I mean, he did wear the 24/7 championship on SNL. Okay,
he did that once.
That is a form of promotion, and I would say it's definitely a more of a, it's a bit more of a, you know, give and take relationship than a lot of celebrity relationships.
I'm only joking. I think this is a tremendous link that WWE has with this guy, like a relevant modern star, like a Bad Bunny. I think is. You know, it's a great partnership for WWE to have. Like, even putting him in that video game as well. Yeah. Like, I think that's going to attract a lot of non-wrestling fans that are going to be interested in something like that.
Absolutely. You think he's got a role at Mania? A match? We'll say.
I'm going to say no. Is he not touring? Didn't we go over this?
I think I looked it up. He's actually not touring. I was wrong. It was dates for like another Bad Bunny themed thing. So I don't believe he's touring.
Well, I mean, if you're looking for another like celebrity tie-in, he would certainly be near the top of the list.
They would probably love to have him if he's available. Let's just say that.
Adam Pearce signs the Maximum Male Models over to Raw. So what a get by Adam Pearce, just sneaking them right out from underneath SmackDown's nose.
So is this how contracts work? Like, you know, people have to re-up and. I guess the brand that you're on has first dibs. But I mean, Pierce is in control of both brands, is he not?
Well, on Mondays he's in charge of Raw. On Fridays he's in charge of SmackDown. He competes with himself.
Conflict of interest.
Yeah, this is like solitaire. Okay, you're facing the computer, but you're also facing yourself.
Okay.
So big signing by Adam Pearce, scooping himself as well. Then Chelsea Green walks in asking if Pearce is the manager, and she was given Belgian chocolate instead of Swiss chocolate, and complains about not being in the Elimination Chamber match. She can beat all the women that are in that chamber match. Her family is here tonight, and she just wants a match. So Pierce is going to find her an opponent. I don't know how long this character is going to run, but Chelsea Green does perform it well.
Yeah, like of all the, again, new debuts that we've had recently, I would say she has one of the bigger personalities, you know, of a lot of the people that we just kind of see and then kind of forget in a week or two. So I think this is the type of character that works well. She's the type of personality that I think, you know, should be able to succeed under a WWE umbrella. It's
a very easy character to write for as well, that if you have, like, there's just plenty of like easy ideas to create segments for someone like a Chelsea Green that you can insert into different segments on a show.
I think the challenge will be to make sure that it's not just a one-note gag, you know?
Yeah.
Because they have a lot of those, and
that'll be on the content, and that'll be on the performer too, to go beyond. Because it's, you know, you've got something, but it is kind of one note, and it's going to take more than that beyond just the novelty of it.
My concern is that, like, this is not in no way a character that seems to seems to be promoting itself on any sort of in-ring substance. Like, it's a character that's solely based off of these backstage skits, and in the few times we've seen her, both in the Rumble and tonight, it's just kind of like, you know, squash settings where she's embarrassed so she has something else to complain about. And these days, I definitely think if you want any sort of like longevity, or if you want like any sort of like meaningful success, I kind of feel like you have to be able to show something in ring, and she's not really getting the chance to as this character. I worry.
It's not a main event character. That said, it's also not Tegan Nox.
Yeah. I mean, those are the extremes, isn't it?
Well, and sometimes you're looking at it's better than just being a background figure that's just member of the division number 8.
When she said, my family was here, I thought it could have been a way to tease up a Zack Ryder, but nothing came of that.
No, there was nothing. Baron Corbin takes on Dexter Lumis. So we've got JBL in one corner, Johnny Gargano in the other. Yes, Johnny Gargano is still here. And JBL is done with Corbin. He's not impressed with Corbin's win-loss record. This match was very dull as Lumis is selling, and then he escapes the dreaded chinlock, fires up, leg drop, and then Corbin misses in the corner and gets hit with a side slam, and Lumis wins in 3:17. JBL is not impressed, and this feels like it is rapidly coming to a close. That's what this feels like.
I think it's already over.
This might have been the write-off later on tonight because, it feels like this thing is just, it wasn't clicking and JBL's done traveling the Raw. I don't know. But it went nowhere. And it just did not feel like this is an angle for something else with Corbin and JBL.
No, not at all. And I asked what the whole point was. I would say the pairing from the beginning I thought felt pretty odd. I think JBL is actually a very strong, heel presence and could have been a great mouthpiece for, maybe some sort of burgeoning monster that they're trying to get off the ground. Not for somebody like a Baron Corbin, who I think has at least demonstrated a pretty good aptitude for speaking, at least, in a WWE setting. And I mean, he's already a guy who's at a certain level, and I don't think JBL was going to take him higher at all. So this felt like it was poorly conceived, and it ultimately went nowhere.
Saxton interviews Becky Lynch, and Orlando is where it all began between Becky and Bayley. She first met her at the Performance Center, and Bayley was looking for a meal ticket to become great. Well, Becky had a different route to becoming great, and she says that Bayley brought her family into this, and there is one hand she hasn't played yet, and maybe she's going to play that hand tonight. Mm-hmm. So maybe she had Lita hidden all night.
Maybe she had these lines saved up for the poker game at Raw is 30.
Perhaps Lita got invited to the poker game and Becky said, wait a minute, I've got a better idea.
I guess it does make you wonder, was that angle... Anyway, we'll talk about it at the end of the night.
You're right. That was going to be on the Raw 30, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Brock Lesnar comes out with his Megadeth shirt on. And my God, he's just full on aw shucks cowboy Brock. He asks if you saw the Royal Rumble. Well, it sucked because I was thrown over the top rope by Bobby Lashley. Bobby who?
Yeah.
Boy, he really wanted to get this Bobby who over. And after about the third time where 5 fans yelled out his last name, he just gave up on it and just started calling him Bobby Lashley. This was an attempt at, I guess, coming up with his own callback line for the audience. And I imagine in his brain, he was imagining 10,000 people screaming, Bobby who? Bobby Lashley. And the place just roars back at Brock, and he's got him in the palm of his hand. This was a big swing and a miss.
There are moments from the Brock Lesnar run of several years ago where he was trying new things almost every single week that were very out of character for him, things like the boom box, just other crazy weird things that were highly entertaining for Brock Lesnar at the time. And maybe this was designed to be one of those, Brock, try something new. And Brock seems to be in a mood where he's willing to do a whole lot of different. And this was, unfortunately, the type of different we never want to see out of a Brock Lesnar. This sort of pattern promo. Honestly, I don't know if it would have worked for anybody. And certainly not somebody who I would say still has a bit of a limited abilities on the microphone as a Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, he was taking all his notes from Dax, including the y'alls in there to make him more relatable.
Have you ever tried that?
No,
that into your speech?
I don't think I could.
For you?
I don't think it would come off natural from me. I don't think it would be. I don't think I would connect with people by talking to y'all. So he talks about how Bobby's been in his head all week when he was ice fishing, when he was eating steak, when he was in bed with his wife. After 4 to 5 hours, then he was back thinking about Lashley. Because he can go for hours. He's Brock Lesnar.
Well, doing what? We don't know. He could have been just, reading.
Crossword puzzle?
Reading on his Kindle. We don't know what he's doing.
Shooters Weekly. I don't know. What magazine would he have on his Kindle? I don't know.
Do magazines publish weekly anymore? I guess a gun magazine might, yeah.
Carnivore carnivore
digest. Yeah. Okay. What magazines do Brock? Well, I mean, what books do? Why are we assuming this man does not read literature? Okay, why are we assuming magazines?
He's definitely read The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe a few times. C.S. Lewis.
The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Okay, I'm trying to think of what the joke is there, but
nothing, no joke, just a book that came to mind. Under his in his $5 denim jacket, he's got a multi-million-dollar contract for Bobby Lashley at Elimination Chamber. So is Brock putting up the money for this? Like, are there can't be pay-per-view points attached in here? Are they getting like a cut of the Peacock subscription numbers? How is he guaranteeing this multi-million-dollar
I imagine
match?
it's like how Conor McGregor would challenge Michael Chandler to a fight. Conor McGregor is the draw, so he holds the keys to $1 million matchup, and maybe that's what Brock was able to offer here.
Well, he tells Lashley to sign this contract if you've got any balls. So Lashley comes out to defend his testicles, and he goes over their history, that they've had 2 singles matches, each has won one, but then I eliminated you at the Rumble. So I've got the leverage. So he takes the contract. He's going to have his agent, his manager, and his lawyer look it over, and he'll take it under consideration and asks, are you surprised that Bobby Who has one up on you?
God.
What we got here was like 10 minutes of t-shirts that will never see the light of day that they were really hoping for. Yeah. And Lesnar hits an F5 to Lashley. Crowd chants for another. So he hits Lashley with a second F5. And we'll have a contract signing next week in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
I think they're going to sign the contract. That's my guess.
There's a good chance, yeah. Maybe the big news coming out of this is that it's slated for the Chamber and not WrestleMania. So does that open the door for a different opponent for either man?
I would say yes. I don't see you doing this back to back.
I don't see it either.
This is a rubber match. Unless you have absolutely no options for Lesnar beyond this and you do some kind of non-finish. But to me, I don't see that happening. I would venture to guess that they're probably going in different directions after Montreal.
So, I would say this is pretty big speculation about who a potential Brock Lesnar WrestleMania opponent could be. Who?
Bobby Who?
Yeah. Obviously, like the big conversation at least a few weeks ago was still Stone Cold Steve Austin at least at one point being offered a Brock Lesnar match. Does this open up those discussions again, you think?
It would sound like something major would have had to have shifted at that point, which there's no indication it has. Like the last was that Austin was not wrestling on that show. I'm not expecting that one.
And what about a Gunther?
Listen, I think it's a great match. They're obviously very, very high on Gunther, and they booked him in such a way at the Rumble. So I don't think you can discount that option unless they have something in their back pocket for Brock. But when you're looking up and down the roster, it's unless you're going somewhere way outside left field. I don't know how many people make sense if you're eliminating Lashley from the mix and looking at who else would make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like Braun, you've been there, done that. That doesn't sound fresh or that big. And yeah,
I'm hoping it's Gunther.
I think Gunther's hoping it's Gunther. Gargano and Dexter Lumis walk up to Candice LeRae, who's getting ready for her match, and Dexter has drawn a picture of the Gargano family with Nikki watching over the family, and then Candice turns around and sees Nikki in the background and goes after her. I didn't know what this was, nor do I want to know what this is, but
it's a continued effort to try to push, whatever this Nikki Cross character is supposed to be. She just randomly shows up, and now it looks like she'll have some sort of, maybe, I'm guessing, a bit of a permanent role attached to Candice.
She's haunting the Garganos?
Sure. In a way that Dexter Lumis used to. So you know what? I don't know. Maybe
she'll come into the family.
Maybe Indy will have some competition. Maybe
maybe Dexter will have a new love interest.
That's it.
It's moved on from Indy and on to Nikki.
Could be.
Okay. Carmella, Candice LeRae, Michin, and Piper Niven for the final spot in the women's Elimination Chamber match. Niven looked really good in this match, getting to be Piper Niven. showing a lot of aggression in this match, and they seem to go out of their way to protect her. She pretty much gets credit for the win, but not getting the pinfall at the end. At one point, Michin hit Eat Defeat onto Carmella, and Niven breaks it up. LeRae hit a missile dropkick and then a cabrata, which Michin breaks up, and the two have been working together, so Candice is annoyed that Michin broke up the cover. Niven then knocks Michin into LeRae, and then Niven hits a spinning sidewalk slam onto Michin that Corey Graves says is like being driven into a black hole. And then Niven hits the cannonball on LeRae. Carmella super kicks Niven and takes the prone Candice LeRae, and Carmella gets the pinfall. 9:52, so wins in her return match and is in the chamber.
Yeah, I thought the match turned out to be pretty exciting. I thought they made very effective use of Piper Niven as basically somebody who was able to take on all three of them at once. And I think it's kind of amazing what a name change and a bit of a serious push can do for somebody, and how much she's been held back. With her entire introduction being tied to Eva Marie and then Doudrop, it was just really ridiculous when all this was already there, for them. I thought she paired off really well with Candice, and it looks like the two of them are going to be paired off together in a bit of a feud, and I think they present a really wonderful, David versus Goliath chemistry that I look forward to seeing a bit more. I honestly would have preferred if Piper Niven or even Candice made it into the match, but I'm not really mad at Carmella as a choice. I think, she's fresh, and you don't want to job her out in this sort of setting right away. And I think, she's of a certain star level, and there's a place for her in a five-way match like a chamber.
I think they're looking more at Piper Niven. They want to give her that concerted monster push, and she wouldn't be winning this chamber match. So let's not put her in a situation where we have to get creative to eliminate her. And thus you put in Carmella, because I don't think anyone's looking at Carmella winning this thing either.
There aren't many people they are looking at, John. Look at this chamber lineup. I don't know how many people you could justifiably buy as a WrestleMania title contender.
I feel it's Asuka. Asuka seems like the favorite. It's Asuka or Raquel. I would say that's probably your short list. I mean, they have not gotten a lot of these women over to this point where you see a viable challenger for Bianca Belair. Corbin asks JBL, what are we going to be doing tonight when we go out? JBL says there is no more we. He has headlined WrestleMania, sold out arenas. But what you're hearing when you walk out to the arena is people changing the channel. Your quarter hours are dismal. Your P50 plus numbers are even going down. That's our core audience. The median age is just going through the roof, Baron. And he says that because of you, Baron, he's losing his credibility by being attached to him. Now, in the background, we also see MVP chatting it up with Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin. He calls Corbin a clown, and I don't belong around you. So Corbin says, I can get better. I will improve. JBL says, you can't polish a turd. I tried. This was the ultimate just destruction of a guy. This was one step away from throwing a guy into a crate and putting the OVW sticker on it. It was just, going pretty strong. This guy is not just we're not just breaking up this act, but it's this act sucks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I can only imagine it's setting up for another, down in the dumps Baron Corbin character that I will have absolutely zero interest in. I mean, I don't know what, man. I think he's shown glimpses, of being special, of being somebody maybe worthy of this level of attention, but they give this guy so much, character after failed character, match after match after match, headlock after headlock after headlock. It's just, I don't know. I just don't really get it, but we'll see what this is setting up. Is there any world where, Baron Corbin can catch fire enough to warrant a WrestleMania match in this year?
Spring break.
Ooh, Baron Corbin goes off to GCW?
Baron Corbin doing an indie run would be great.
Awesome. I mean, he would take that Zack Ryder character and he'd take it to the next level.
Oh, he would be fantastic. Not even joking. I think, we're not looking at an indie run, but an NXT break for a Baron Corbin would be something that I would at least entertain, to just put him into somewhere else that would be different.
I kind of argue like how beneficial these sort of like NXT excursions are for these guys. Like, okay, did
he would not be my
necessarily benefit that much from the NXT run? I liked him a whole lot in NXT, but by the time he came back to the main roster, he felt kind of like a similar Finn Balor, and it wasn't until the Judgment Day, run that really kind of gave him a bit of a new life. And like if Baron Corbin, for instance, went down to NXT for like, I don't know, 5 months, and he came back, he'd still be the same. Like anyway, but it's a different NXT now, so who knows?
It would just be a chance for, like, I would be looking at it for as much of some of that talent getting to work with Corbin that would, I think, have a lot more leeway in an NXT, that I think you would have a lot more, I think that he could have much more of a rounded character, that he could try some different things, and that audience will take him as more of a big deal there, because I just feel you've kind of just kind of run in place in this role for so long that I don't know, he's always going to have his role.
I like your spring break idea a lot more.
Well, maybe you go that direction then. Candice is selling her ribs from the last match, and then Niven grabs her, saying, "You ruined everything." So Michin comes to her aid, and Niven says, "You both are lucky, and I won't be so forgiving if you get between me and the Raw Women's title." I was like, they kind of already did. Like, you lost your chance at the title match, so I don't know what her plan is, but she's got to get around this chamber match.
The WrestleMania Women's Battle Royal.
Okay,
that's her goal. I just don't see really any other path. I guess she could just ask.
That works too. She could go the Sonya Deville route. Just ask Charlotte for a match. She'll give it to you. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Don't go for the Raw title. Go for the SmackDown title. Just handing those things out. Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander, they're back together with MVP, and they're taking on Alpha Academy. We saw Benjamin get in here with Otis, and there were points in this match where it just seemed off. It just seemed like Benjamin was either doing a really realistic job of selling, or it just seemed like it was... it just felt like one was a few steps ahead of the other, and they just seemed like the timing was off at different points. Cedric comes in, hits a neuralizer on Gable. Gable catches him on a dive and then hits an exploder on the floor, followed by a diving headbutt. And then Benjamin hits a pair of step-up knees and a Samoan drop onto Otis. Gable misses the moonsault, and then Alexander's in with the lumbar check and wins in 4:57. The Hurt Business is back together. Mm-hmm. Minus Lashley.
Yeah. Now, like, what I was kind of looking for in this match is to see exactly like what an MVP association brings to Shelton and Cedric. How magically, being attached to MVP kind of made them such better competitors. I mean, at no point in this match did MVP get involved. I don't even think I heard him shout any sort of instruction. So, I mean, is it just a security blanket, or is it like a hell of a pep talk that MVP must have given these two in the back that made this difference?
Maybe Cedric's been hitting the lumbar check incorrectly on main event.
And MVP just told him to do that.
Make sure you check the lumbar with your knee, not the shin.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to see the Hurt Business back together. They should have never broken up. It feels like we wasted a whole year for these guys. So
what are you talking about? Everyone thought that was a great chance for all of them to branch out on their own. People loved when they broke up the Hurt.
They really kind of set main event on fire, I'm sure, and maybe some additions of Level Up. I don't know. The loss of also potentially sets up a Alpha Academy split with the Maximum Male Models gunning for Otis.
Yeah, I'm so excited about all these options.
All right.
Then we go to The Miz being interviewed by Kathy Kelly. He's complaining about his suit, losing to Rick Boogs last week. So he wants $10,000 from Adam Pearce for the suit that was ruined last week that his wife bought him. Then he starts... Boogs walks out of Pierce's office, and Miz says, "You were lucky last week, and if I was ready, I would have won." And then he starts insulting Adam Pearce, who just happens to be right behind The Miz. So The Miz is put into a rematch with Boogs next week.
Mm-hmm. Where he'll likely lose again. And, I mean, the real destination here, The Miz at this point is sort of the setup guy for an Elias Rick Boogs feud.
Cool. Yeah, this is going to be a deep WrestleMania card.
We're getting to the good part of Raw very soon.
We're almost there,
everybody. Yeah.
Then Chelsea Green
Bear with us.
announces she's going out to the ring, and Pierce better have an opponent for her. Yes, we've established this. Chelsea's out, and the opponent is Asuka. So Asuka comes out, and then all the chamber members surround the ringside area. We've got Raquel and Liv Morgan, who have snuck onto Raw. Adam Pearce is going to be furious about this after Adam Pearce gave them the okay to show up here against Adam Pearce's orders on Raw.
I have nothing to say, dude. I'm sorry. Like, I think we went through all the jokes about the brand split we have in our 12 years of podcasting.
Chelsea got the advantage at the start. She hit an elevated flatliner, and then she's insulting the women at ringside as Asuka gets up, fires away, release German, head kick, and then she goes for like a rolling armbar, but ends up like just hyperextending the arm while crucifixing the other, and Chelsea just submits.
It might have been a new like variation on her armbar. I mean, it looked like a Rings of Saturn type of like double armbar. And
it might have been. Watching it seemed like she was going to roll for the armbar, but you're right. It could be just changing up and giving her a different submission as well. It's not like she was going for the Asuka lock. So
yeah. It was a squash match, and I think it's I almost feel like if you're going to go the squash route, I don't think you need to give Chelsea Green anything. Like, especially if you're going to go up against Asuka, who should be this like brand new version of herself that should be completely unbeatable. I almost felt like she should have just came out here and beat Chelsea Green in 7 seconds rather than, give Chelsea like a bit of early shine that certainly didn't captivate the crowd, nor did I think it was necessary or productive for the overall stories they were telling for the both of them.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the heat of this character is just Chelsea having something to complain about every single week and having something like legitimate that she can actually throw at Adam Pearce. Bianca comes out and calls them all top-tier women that are in the chamber. She was in their position last year, winning the chamber and then going on to become champion. So good luck. Thank you, Bianca. Is this what we missed last week?
What do you mean? Oh, yeah, you're right. We were supposed to have a Bianca Belair segment. I mean,
I guess they didn't have all the qualifiers last week, but
I could see why they cut this out if that was the substance of this. I mean, I thought this was pretty kind of pointless.
At least this was only a drive for her into Orlando for Raw. It's not like she had to fly all day and has a whole day of travel tomorrow for this promo.
I hated how they just like paraded every Elimination Chamber opponent out there as if like they were just kind of robots. Like it just felt so unrealistic and contrived. Like, we want you all to go out there to watch the match. They're not saying anything. I thought it robbed all of them of their individuality. Like, it reminded me of like what they used to do with like a Raw versus SmackDown branded Survivor Series,
What were Raquel and Liv Morgan going to do if Chelsea Green had not demanded a match tonight?
It's a great question.
What were they here for? Like, they didn't come out for the qualifying match that happened earlier, the 4-way, to scout one of your opponents. They came out for this one.
I mean, Bianca might have addressed them in catering, with a very similar speech, perhaps. Or a digital exclusive, more likely.
Okay, well, you've got a week to...
I did not like the segment. Like, we're talking about an Elimination Chamber match that is already pretty, like, void of real contenders and real challengers. And at this point, you got to build up stories and motivations for the other people to at least give me a reason why I care about them doing well in this Elimination Chamber. And if it's not them winning the chamber, then at least, like, hopefully there's some reason for me to, like, pay attention to them, springboarding them to other stories heading into WrestleMania. And this just felt like it pretty much spelled out to you it's going to be Bianca versus Asuka, because you shouldn't care about anybody else.
Maybe they should have Frank Riddick come out and read off the, sell people on the match. He does
why not Nick Khan? He's been making the
Nick Khan would be great.
Yeah.
Coming up at our exclusive premium live event of Elimination Chamber, 6 of our brands will be contested inside of the Elimination Chamber structure that I know all of you are aware of. We are up 52% year over year in viewing content time. The watch time involving the winner will be going on to our most exclusive premium live event on the Peacock streaming network. They will be underneath Roman Reigns, who is our head IP.
Bianca Belair will have to challenge herself against 5 other encumbrances in the division to see if she can retain her championship. Yeah, no, that would be great.
Okay, let's move on. This Raw's breaking us. Cody Rhodes comes out. I didn't think this was such a bad show up until this point, but it was like, it was a pretty point.
It tells you how good this segment was for us to be able to.
We should have a lot more of these segments. This should not be like this outlier on a show. Anyway, Cody comes out, and what do you want to talk about? And he said, last week I took my interview time to speak about the best in the world, Roman Reigns. And his path to WrestleMania is a straight line. But Reigns is now defending the titles against Sami Zayn. And the crowd is chanting for Sami. Cody is encouraging them. And he says that it could be me against Sami Zayn at WrestleMania. Not one person in this crowd bought this. This was as much... Bobby Who got more support than the idea that would be headlining WrestleMania. But he wishes Sami luck, and I will... anyway. So that was it. And then the Sami stuff was not... It's not like that overshadowed this. It was like there was some Sami chants, but then they were engrossed in the next 15 minutes.
I'm in total agreement that I don't think one person, especially after a segment like this, buys that, it could be Cody Rhodes versus Sami Zayn in the main event in WrestleMania. But you have to mention it, especially if you're on a baby face that is like teetering, for that baby face like adulation that Sami Zayn very much has right now. You have to play the role of the respectful, like, beauty pageant winner that, or at least like contestant that's standing up there with the other person. You want the other person to win. You want your fellow babyface to win, and you want to say that you have respect for them so that your audience can also cheer for you. Because the last thing anybody wants, it seems at this point, is for people to see Cody as an alternative. They want Cody to feel like, somebody else they also want to win. And
not after this segment.
I'm curious to know what you thought. What you mean by that?
Well, let's go through it first. Paul Heyman comes out by himself, and he tells Cody that there's a lot on the plates of the bloodline, and a few things fell through the cracks, so he wants to formally congratulate Cody for winning the Royal Rumble and shakes his hand. Cody notes that Dusty and his brother had nicknames for Paul, but he's only going to call him Mr. Heyman because I have a lot of respect for you, and we're going to pull the curtain back. Uh-oh, this was a Cody Dynamite promo, I thought, when he pulling back the imaginative curtain. And he goes back to the year 2000, when his family had fallen on hard times and were broke, and his dad was doing local car commercials, not for the money, but to keep the car. And then, all of a sudden, he got a call from Paul Heyman, where ECW was going to Atlanta and asked if Dusty could appear and do something with Steve Corino in ECW. And it was that appearance and subsequent program that he had with Corino that got Dusty's confidence back. And Dusty was promised that if you show up, I will take care of you and pay you well. And you kept your word. And Cody says, I will never be able to thank you enough for that. And you showed me the way, liking himself to Paul Heyman as a disruptor in this business. This is maybe the only time I'm going to allow the term disruptor, which I hate, but nonetheless, a kinship here between these two that Cody is establishing. The look on Paul's face here, he is nearly in tears here from these words from Cody. And Paul is a phenomenal actor, so I'm not going to put anything past him, but he came across like I imagine they had their structure of this match, but I'm sure there's a lot of coloring in the lines of a lot of these promos that Heyman is involved with, that Cody is involved with, and he is taken aback here by Cody's words, and he's like, collecting himself and stating, Cody, you're really good here, getting me personally. But then he states that it's not about me and it's not about your dad. It's about you, Cody Rhodes, and what you have fought for and trying to unseat the greatest box office attraction of all time, Roman Reigns, at WrestleMania. But you have no idea what it's like to be under that spotlight at WrestleMania. Down the road at the Performance Center, your father trained and prepared the biggest stars of this generation. Seth Rollins, Becky Lynch, Bayley, Eli Cottonwood, Kevin Owens, and Roman Reigns. But you know who your father didn't train or prepare? You. And Cody's got this look, and Paul says, as a father, perhaps he believed that you had to go through this life not as Dusty's son, but as your own man and doing things on your own, and perhaps being the guy to stop Roman Reigns. Paul explains he loved Dusty, and he knows that Dusty loved Cody, and he reveals that in his last conversation with Dusty, he told Paul that Cody was his favorite son, but that Roman was the son he always wanted. And drops the mic. Cody walks right up to Paul, and he's looking furious, but instead shakes Paul's hand very aggressively and says that he is trying to win a championship while you're trying to make it personal. Well, you just did. But Paul, you're not going to pay for it. Your boy Roman is, when I take those titles from him personally. This was awesome. I thought this was just a fantastic segment between these two. And if this is what they have in store, this program is going to be red hot by the time they get to WrestleMania. I could not have envisioned a better kind of kickoff to this program where we have not even got the visual of Roman and Cody in a ring together. You don't even have to get to that for a few weeks. Just the teaser here with all the history of Paul Heyman with Dusty Rhodes, of, a story that I thought he was actually going to bring up, that when Paul Heyman was a photographer and sneaking into like the booking like room in WCW, and Dusty, like, who are you? And like, this guy had just like wandered into their like booking room when Dusty was like booking Jim Crockett Promotions. Like, there's so much history there that you have to delve into.
Well, maybe that's next week.
Well, I mean, certainly you have time for all of these stories and such. But yeah, just unbelievable segment. I thought this was terrific.
Again, just like last week where I thought Cody delivered a hell of a promo. Week after week now, he is silencing any of these sort of questions about whether or not he should actually be the one main eventing WrestleMania, simply by delivering grand slam segments here. Every single time he's coming out, these have been fantastic segments. I thought there was a wonderful bit of storytelling here. We got to see a Cody promo at its best, and that's him making use of a real life event or events to sort of craft whatever motivation around his character's current narrative. Brilliantly told, very engaging, the story about his dad, memorable and very believable. But for me, I mean, it was, because even though we see Paul Heyman almost every single week, I don't know if we ever get to see him perform in this fashion. He usually kind of goes out there and kind of plays a script. And I would even go as far as to say, like, his run with Brock Lesnar, it's very much sort of like routine, and it's great and it's very effective, but we never get to see him, I would say, like, flex his muscles maybe as much as we saw tonight. I thought he did such a great job of like getting into this sort of like heartfelt interaction with Cody, the emotion on his face. I very much too like speculate about like how much was said to between themselves beforehand, but I could also buy that everything here was cleared between the two of them and maybe even written down word for word. because I have that much belief in his acting ability and his ability to just like emote on screen. I again, like if he wasn't
at least the key stuff. Like I really don't believe they're doing like word for word, but I would imagine like all the key parts, like the structure.
What I'm trying to say is like if he performed those tiers, I would completely buy it, because I think, you know, if he wasn't a professional wrestling manager, if he was an actual actor, I truly believe he would be receiving far more adulation for his abilities. But I thought like the direction they took the segment was really brilliant, because I thought it achieved a couple things. You know, first of all, it showed you how deep this story runs for Cody. It's not just about winning the championship against Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. You know, he tells you that for him, there's a lot of familial connection to this. You know, he told us that he didn't just grow up as a rich kid, you know, the son of a famous wrestler. He told us about, you know, a time of financial hardship that he went through with his company with his dad, that I could really buy. And who was out there to bail his family out? The manager of the guy he's about to face, you know, like think about like the crazy circumstance that, you know, is building up to this match beyond just the championship. And that's the sort of like depth of storytelling that you can start to tell now with these second generation wrestlers, where guys who have been around the business, not just them, but like their families have been around the business for so long. You can start to tell these deep rooted stories between their parents that now is sort of built up to, you know, this match between the second generation. And then of course, taking it in this direction tells you just how despicable of a person a Paul Heyman is. To get into something as emotionally like tough to discuss and as emotionally raw as, like, you know, like this man's like feelings for his deceased father or Cody's deceased father, and then to use that as a way to swerve and to really stab that knife in once that other person is very highly emotional and vulnerable. I mean, you know, it tells you the depths that this guy will sink to in order to play mind games on behalf of a Roman Reigns. So I loved everything. I loved Cody's response. He's not mad at the suggestion that Dusty wanted to sound like Roman. I think the Cody character knows that was just a bullshit lie designed for Paul to just basically insult Cody to his face. And I love the fact that he initially just wanted a clean fight, and it's the fact that Paul and Roman decided to take it personal that's what's really got him pissed off. So it made this match feel like it's a deserving main event of WrestleMania, you know, and that's not to take anything away from Sammy, because I think it's really remarkable that both on Raw and both on SmackDown, you have two different storylines, both feeling in many ways just as hot, you know, as they're both heading into a championship match. So both shows, I think, are really being helped by these, you know, bloodline stories between both of these two.
Yeah. It was a tremendous segment, and one in which when he mentioned the live, let's pull the curtain back, I was getting like fears of the worst AEW Cody.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the champion who I know as Joe. Hello, Joe. Anyway, it was tremendous. It was a great segment between these two.
Again, you have to look at, like, you know, is there a difference in the process of a Cody promo in an AEW versus a WWE? Is there an editing process that has made these things better, or is he just a lot more self-aware now than he was before?
I would venture to guess that Cody was very much spinning his wheels and just not understanding why is this audience turning on me, and where can I how can I connect with this audience? And I think he was trying a lot, and it was just not coming up. It was just, he was still getting reactions, but it was just so all over the place that I'm sure it did a number on just his kind of approach to his own promos. Like, what is missing here that I had at one point that some audiences are with, others are not. And it just seems like this was a hard reset. And this is also, it almost feels like this version of Cody has eliminated the biggest negatives of the AEW Cody version. That was still a very compelling figure. I think we kind of just painted as like all his promos were missing the mark when it was really just some of the more outlandish ones that we harken back to and not some of the, more spirited ones that, would have an arena going nuts for. But he just feels like it is keeping everything based in reality and not going off into these weird tangents and talking about people that changed their names and all of this stuff that you literally we were on here on those Wednesday nights just like decode like what was he even talking about was right. And that's never the case now.
Yeah, they're incredibly easy to follow. They're centrally focused on one person. Even the Sami Zayn mentions here, there was no distracting. There's no part of me that really that at all wanted to see Cody versus Sami at the end of this. Obviously, the character had to mention it just in sort of a real, in a kayfabe sense. You don't know who the challenger is that's going to come out of this match, but there was nothing in the promo that led you down that path to possibly want to see that match. So yeah, very clear, very effectively done, and highly emotional. Really good.
Here is a question. Mm-hmm. For Elimination Chamber, they are in Montreal. And then the Monday, Raw is in Ottawa. And Cody coming out in Ottawa when presumably Sami Zayn is losing that match. And perhaps it's a big angle that they do at the end. Do you expect just a regular reaction for Cody in Canada coming off of that pay-per-view?
I do at this point. First of all, I think they will book an out of the Elimination Chamber match in a relatively satisfying way that I think still saves face for Sami Zayn.
I think so too.
And certainly they seem, from what I've seen, smart enough to shelter Cody from whatever residual heat that people might have from a Sami Zayn loss or in fact, can we assume that Cody will completely divorce himself from the Sami Zayn story, or is there a world where the two of them could work together somehow? If Sami fails Cody, he gives Cody the blessing to take out Roman, something like that. But I don't see the crowd turning really either way. Maybe Sami Zayn was right, in that Ariel Helwani interview, and crowds maybe just kind of aren't like that anymore. Canadian crowds though can be a very, very different story. But I don't know if Ottawa is historically maybe one of those, but I something tells me that in the Vince era, if Vince was booking the show, I don't know if he'd be as sensitive to these things, but I do trust a Levesque would be able to navigate that decently.
Following that, it is Montez Ford against Elias in our final qualifying match of the night. They went over 10 minutes here. Austin Theory is on commentary. Elias controlled the first 48 minutes of this match and then spins Ford around on his shoulders into a sit-out powerbomb. Ford starts his comeback, standing moonsault, and then hits a big dive over the corner post and wins with From the Heavens. So Ford enters the chamber, beating Elias, who I guess you're hoping for a big Rick Boog showdown.
I don't know if I'm hoping for it. That just seems to be the tease, right? After the Miz. But yeah, we'll see. I like Ford a lot as an entry to the match. It's going to make for some spectacular dives off of the structure, I'm sure, from him. As a match, this was a pretty tough spot, coming off of such a great segment and right before the cage match. So, yeah, it was there.
Yeah, it was. The first half of this was a really prolonged Elias match. Theory then is posing on the desk with the belt when Seth Rollins attacks him and hits the stomp on the floor. And that was all of Seth Rollins on this show. We see a shot of Damage Control in the back. Dakota Kai is on crutches. And next week, multiple announcements. We've got the contract signing between Brock Lesnar and Bobby Lashley. Asuka, Carmella, and Nikki Cross will take on Raquel Rodriguez, Liv Morgan, and Natalya. The Miz takes on Rick Boogs, and we will have a Miz TV segment with Seth Rollins at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn. Final match of the night is the steel cage match between Bayley and Becky Lynch, and they lock the cage door. Dakota Kai and Io Sky are ringside, and Becky is grinding Bayley's face into the cage, yelling at her about bringing up her husband. We see the announcers that are very concerned if Bayley will be able to make it to NXT on Tuesday for her segment of Ding Dong Hello. Could you imagine
I'm
this?
willing to bet she'll be there.
Oh, I hope so. Bayley is draped on the top rope, hit with a leg drop, and then Bayley goes for a knee bar. And Corey Graves says she doesn't quite have the heel. Submissions are really not her thing. And Bayley continued. This was more like she was hugging Becky's leg. It's like she went back to her old gimmick here. She was just like hugging it. Bayley to belly is hit off the top rope, and then Bayley is climbing to escape. Becky follows. They're both seated on the top, and Becky tries for a disarmer on top when Bayley lands down on the mat. Io climbs, and then she is seated with Becky, and Becky is sent back into the ring. Kai hands off the crutch to Bayley, who attacks Becky with it, and then to the rescue, it's Lita, who runs down, yanking Sky off the cage, takes away the crutch, and there is a twist of fate to Io on the floor. And then the lightest slamming of a door onto someone's head you have ever seen as Lita gingerly closed this door onto Bayley, who is then knocked into a manhandle slam, and Becky wins in 15 minutes and 10 seconds. And our best friends, Lita and Becky, embrace at the end of the match and reflect on their feud, which was the last time we saw Lita on television.
Yeah, when was that?
A year ago.
A year ago, okay, yeah, when you had these two face each other. It's WrestleMania season, and that tends to mean you get a lot of your legends back, and that either means Trish or Lita. In this month, it's Lita. I think it's cool. This is a show that, especially in the women's division, really needs some star power. And what is the match here that I think we're gonna end off with? What's the match at the end of this that we're building to?
From this, I'm thinking we're at least going to get some kind of tag match with maybe Becky and Lita. It's interesting because Becky is one where she's one of the people you would have kind of an unknown destination for WrestleMania. Dave Meltzer has reported that the likelihood is that it'll be Damage Control against Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler. And then it makes you wonder, like, if Becky is going to be involved with Lita in some way, whether it be in the lead up to Mania or if Becky has something bigger for Mania. Like, it would seem teaming with Lita, that does not feel like a big deal for Mania. But I don't know what you're doing with Becky unless it's, someone off the roster that you have a big plan for Becky, because on the roster, I don't have that obvious opponent. First of all, I would like Ronda versus Becky, like, personally. That's the match that I think we should have had last year. We didn't get it, so why not pair them together? But if we're going to go the tag route, I would actually do Becky and Lita versus Shayna and Ronda. How are they going to get Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler to be baby faces against a Damage Control in 2 months' time? You're talking about an audience that, the last time they saw the two of them, they were heels, and I don't think audience sentiment towards Ronda Rousey is that strong for her to be turned into a babyface in a short amount of time. If they were looking at that as a tag match, I would argue, like, why are you watering it down as a tag? Like, it's, to me, either you do Becky against Ronda or they're in separate programs.
I would agree.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know what the direction is, but you would think like Lita is involved here for some significant reason, and probably not just for Elimination Chamber either. Because that show already has like 5 matches now,
and it's actually pretty stacked for like a B level pay-per-view.
Like, you only need like 5 to 6 matches on that show. The chamber matches are going to be lengthy matches. Reigns and Zayn is going to be long. Like, you don't need, Lesnar and Lashley probably won't. That probably will not be that long.
We've got 4 matches so far, and this is according to
plus Brock and Lashley, right?
You're right. Yeah, actually, that's not added yet. So you're right, 5. So we got Roman versus Sami Zayn. We've got the men's elimination chamber, women's elimination chamber, and then Edge and Beth versus the Judgment Day as well. So yeah,
that's a pretty full card at this point. Like, maybe you can throw something else on there, but in this era where you're not really doing kickoff matches, like that's a 3-hour card when you fit in all these video packages that they just that's gonna be something the live experience, seeing what the downtime is like for this show. Well, there you go. That was Raw. If you missed the promo segment with Heyman and Cody Rhodes, that is your homework to check out from Raw.
It's great. Absolutely great.
A great 15 minutes.
let's go to your feedback right now, and I want to thank in advance a lot of you guys who decided to send in super chats today. We probably don't mention it often enough, but if you tune in live, and if you want to support the show and jump the line as far as your questions and comments goes, you can send us a super chat of any denomination. We highly appreciate the support of Post Wrestling. So let's first of all go here to. Let me just bring this up. Let's go first to Abraham, who sends $5. Thank you, Abraham, for the support. He says, if Cody completes his father's arc at WrestleMania, what do you think is in store for Cody's arc afterwards? So what's in store for Cody after he becomes champion?
I would say there's a natural to do at that point, Cody and Seth after Mania. Like that could certainly be something.
As a first title challenge, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Could have Seth pick up a big win over Logan Paul at WrestleMania. It sets up a rematch that, it's always the tough position of being the challenger after a new champion wins at Mania, but someone's got to be in that role.
I could see a Cody versus a heel Logan Paul.
That could be a possibility too. Yeah.
Like at this point,
let's remember, you're also looking, I think Saudi Arabia is the next event after WrestleMania. So that is not a wild idea. Yeah. Like you would figure Logan Paul is going to be in a big match, given that it's Saudi Arabia. You could certainly,
and at this point, like a Cody versus Logan Paul match is not just like sort of a gimmicky match. Like I'm looking for it to be potentially a really good match. That could do well for Cody's stock in the mainstream. So it's a valuable hand that they could play.
It's a fresh opponent for Brock. It's you could go back.
Cody being champion would be fresh for everybody. It would freshen up a Bobby Lashley feud. Kevin Owens, like you name it, right?
And if you play it right, Cody can be that champion that you can weave him back and forth to work with baby faces, to work with heels. I think he is one that you could pull that off with where he's just like your traditional champion, and he's going to take on all comers.
So you're saying you want Cody's first promo after WrestleMania to be talking about how he united all of us and solved the racism and every sort of discrimination.
Well, he already solved that a few years ago, so he's on to the next. He's going to
conquer Canada.
The political dissension. That's going to be his next task.
Interesting. That's definitely. I mean, on the one hand, maybe a bit of a concern because, this is his long-term story, and once you solve the long-term story, what is left? But he can build another long-term story, can he? It's a very interesting character, full of depth and full of history, as we saw tonight. So I guess I'm not really that concerned. Let's go up next to DJ Depression, who sends $5. Thank you, DJ, for that support. DJ Depression says, worst era, that period of time around 2010 with Super Cena and Orton trading the title back and forth. Also, that was the peak annoying Miz era.
Yeah, that falls into that.
Is that worse than I don't know, 95, like some of the times when WWE business was really in the dumps. Like, would you rather watch?
I mean, this 93 period we're watching is pretty awful.
But there's so much nostalgic value that it's hard for me to look at that as all that bad, because I would watch a 93 edition of Raw any day over a 2010 edition of Raw.
What if that 93 edition of Raw was 3 hours?
I think I would still prefer the three episodes of a 93 Raw to a 2010 edition of a 3-hour Raw.
Yeah, it's very possible.
Thank you for that, DJ. We go up next to Jake from the Windy City, who sends $5 as well. Thank you, Jake, as always, for the support. He says, I can't believe Elimination Chamber and Battle in the Valley are on the same night on February 18th. Really unnecessary.
That's just the way the schedule works out. I mean, they're not. It is what it is.
I'm curious, unnecessary on whose part? Who would have had these dates first?
Yeah, I don't think for New Japan, they had this date booked, and for WWE they did as well. I don't know who picked this date first, but it's also the Battle in the Valley. That is as much a live event as it is a pay-per-view.
So is that the Sasha?
Yes.
Match?
Yes.
Interesting. Okay, so that's going to be in the same night.
Yes, which that weekend, by the way. So Wai and I will do a show that night after we go to Elimination Chamber, and then on the Sunday, Karen Peterson and WH Park are going to do a show on after Battle in the Valley on Sunday, going through that show. So you will be covered regardless of what show you're watching on Saturday night.
I mean, New Japan probably knew that Elimination Chamber was booked for this date before they booked Sasha. So I don't know if there's anything nefarious or.
Quite honestly, I feel like you're not going to be like if you're. Is it really eating into either show all that much? Like I feel if you're
a live buzz maybe, but you know, a lot of people paying for the New Japan show might be watching about it.
What time does Battle in the Valley even start?
Yeah.
'Cause that's a West Coast show. Like they might not even. I don't even know if they necessarily are going to have that much overlap. Like you could potentially just watch Elimination Chamber and then Battle
it looks
in
like
the Valley.
7:00.
Oh,
According
7
to fight.
7 Eastern.
You know what? Sorry, 10 p.m. Eastern time.
Okay, so it'll go
Sasha
against
will
like
probably be on after Elimination Chamber.
yeah, that match is not going to overlap with the Chamber. You'll have like the first hour of New Japan going against the last hour of Chamber, but like you can just pause and watch
Might
the whole
actually
show.
work out well. It's gonna go, maybe it'll go head to head with the press conference.
Oh yeah, yes. Do they have a sponsor yet for the press conference? Where
I don't know.
Icicles are
about
sponsoring the Elimination Chamber.
Schwartz's.
That would be
sponsor.
awesome if they catered it.
Oh, that'd be great.
Are we going to go to Schwartz's?
I feel like it's a default stop, right? Every time
I
you're in
would love to
Montreal.
go to
Will you have
Schwartz's.
will you have a poutine at some point?
No, I won't.
Okay, he draws the line there. Let's go to Matt Hahn, who also sends $5. Thank you, Matt. He says, whoever writes the Bloodline segments should write the whole show because I'm assuming whoever writes them isn't in charge of the Dexter Lumis segments. Well, Paul Levesque is in charge of everything. So we can maybe, you know, credit him with these Bloodline segments. We can also credit him with giving Dexter Lumis an incredible amount of airtime. So
He's the last stop now.
yeah. Let's go up next to Rob, or William Rob, I should say, who sends $5. Thank you for the support, William Rab. I keep saying Rob. William Rab says, it looks like Becky, Lita, and Trish versus Damage Control at the Chamber. Also, do you think they save Edge versus Balor in Hell in a Cell for Mania as it was reported? Okay, first of all, Trish being a part of this to round out the three woman group against Damage Control. What do you think of that possibility?
I don't know. It's like
I don't think it'll be for Chamber. Like that does feel like it would be a WrestleMania sort of like worthy spectacle.
yeah, which Damage Control seems like they are earmarked elsewhere. I mean, it's just like what are you really necessarily getting by doing this match at Elimination Chamber? It's like the show is sold out. It's got like your big.
You get more Canadians on the show, Canadian icons.
Well, I don't know. I look at this kind of a match and it's sort of indicative. Like we have signed all of these women and we're in a position where this is what we need for our pay-per-view is to have Lita, to have Trish. It's like like all these women have been signed back and why don't we have enough that we can put into prominent spots? And it's not like it's all these over stars are in the Chamber either. Like that's a problem in the Chamber match as well. So, I mean, yeah, for the night that would work out great. If it's just simply like Lita, Trish, and Becky coming in and they beat Damage Control, it's like who's getting a lot out of that? Are we building Becky up to become that much bigger by this association? So I mean, it's one where you're booking it for the arena that night and for the audience at large, but it's very much a one night thing, and I would hope that it doesn't to me look like the
At this point, like they've done the Trish Lita like return so much that it kind of loses some of the freshness, but like in comparison to I guess the alternatives that are out there for Becky Lynch, I mean, yeah, it's more attractive.
The storyline too, and I don't even know if last week the Becky thing was a cover for Dakota Kai. Is like Dakota Kai is like selling this injury angle as well that she shouldn't even be able to go at Elimination Chamber. So I think that would kind of rule that out as well. Because if you remember last week, you had Corey Graves stating that Dakota Kai was injured in the Rumble last night. And then later in the show, Becky does that attack with the chair on Dakota, which could have just been to explain why she is on crutches. So it was kind of weird last week, but I took that as, you know, the potential that Dakota might have an injury.
Edge versus Balor in Hell in a Cell for Mania. There's apparently
so there was a report that was at one point in the idea process for the Rumble, but didn't happen. And I guess you could extend that. It's not like Edge has a whole lot going on. I guess that would be your ultimate blow off to this story would be, yeah, I guess you could do that.
Mm-hmm. It's a 2-night event, Hell in a Cell would, I guess, add a certain appeal. And I think, have we seen Edge versus Balor yet? Have we actually seen that match?
Feels like we have, Balor. But I guess not a singles match.
Yeah, in a singles capacity. Okay, so we had Extreme Rules actually. I Quit match. Yeah, that was the result of that was the concerto to Beth.
Right.
So, Hell in a Cell, yeah, would freshen it up, I guess. It's a logical sort of end to this program at this point, so I could see it. All right, our next super chat, final one here, comes to us from Big Time Baxter, who sends £4.49. Is that what they use?
Quid?
Pounds? I'm sorry. I wish I knew. But thank you for the support. Big Time
It's
Baxter.
1 in the morning.
He says, have you noticed SmackDown just doesn't seem to be hitting females 35 to 49, but are seeing big increases in males 18 to 49 and the non-demo year over year?
I would have to look at it. I don't have all these stats just in my head.
It's a very particular demo that you bring up there, Big Time Baxter, and I mean it would be really hard for us without like data in front of us, nor like knowing the content of like I don't know, the several months of SmackDown.
To compare here, so on Friday, in that demo, men did 333,000, women did 184. So you're almost looking at well over double men in that demo. So 184 this week for women. Last week 200. Going before that 177, 185, 188, 163, 185. So that's going back like 6 weeks in the range of what we're looking at. I can pull up and see here what they were doing about a year ago, where they were doing comparable last year. As I'm looking at this, like exactly 1 year ago they did 191.
191. Okay.
And this week, this past week, they did 184. So, I mean, I'm just skimming through this. It doesn't seem like there's a noticeable drop off from a year ago, where they're also, Anyway,
I guess even if this were true, I guess I just don't know what we would necessarily point to as being the culprit.
Mm-hmm. They were doing better earlier, like January of last year. There are some larger numbers here, so yeah, you can see some decrease year over year. But
So what are we saying? Sami Zayn not a draw for females 35 to 49. Is that the explanation we're going to jump to?
I mean they're still holding up fine among what they're doing typically, but they were down this week with female viewers from the week prior, more so than male viewers. So the elite, Sami Zayn, it's just men. That's it. That's all they want.
Okay. Thank you guys for your super chats. Let's go to forum.postwrestling.com, where all of our Post Wrestling Cafe patrons could leave their feedback right now. And John, would you like to start?
Yes. Let's start off with Matthew, who says Cody's promos always have two constants: mentions of Dusty and crocodile tears. Today was no exception. I guess he did not enjoy the promo. I will say, like, the tears are, they were definitely overdone to the point, even though they might have been completely genuine in AEW, because they were such, so frequent, they felt like a gimmick, and they felt infrequent. And that's why, somebody like Matthew might say that they were crocodile. I don't get that sense. In fact, like at least in his WWE run so far, like they feel like he's been holding back, actually. And the content, I'm sure, like, got him emotional. He's talking about his deceased father. Like, I'm sure it's a pretty, like, emotional topic to talk about, especially in an arena full of people. I'm also watching this from, like, the perspective of a WWE fan who might not have seen him in AEW. And so a lot of it will probably seem fresh and, not at all inauthentic. So I thought they were both, like, really good things that he did. And
that he used today. All right, let's go to Kate, who says, this show will likely be remembered for the Cody Heyman promo, and while the attention will, for obvious reasons, be focused on the one who is headlining WrestleMania, I thought that Paul in particular was remarkable. His ability to transition from being genuinely moved and caught off guard to cutting a vicious heel promo deserves high praise. Kind of a meaningless cheap shot at Dustin included in there at the end, but the man earned his salary for the year tonight. Was it a meaningless cheap shot at Dustin?
No, because I think at the end, I mean, you could take it that way, but I had the same conclusion as you. It's that Cody can see through this guy, that this was a total fabricated conversation that Heyman is trying to get into his head. It's a conversation Dusty never had with him.
Right, yeah. And maybe it was just an added insult, meant to perhaps attack his family that much more, to insult his brother that way, or to divide maybe that brotherly relationship that way, perhaps. Speculation might still continue about Dustin's future in the WWE. Maybe this is laying the foundation for that big Dustin Rhodes Paul Heyman encounter in the future.
Last one is Muggin. It was a newsworthy outing in Orlando. Lesnar and Lashley set the stage for their rubber match pretty well. I wonder what the direction will be both for heading into Mania. Edge name-dropping Jamiroquai got a good chuckle out of me. The Street Profits split the difference with their qualifying matches. Dawkins continues to shed the second fiddle labels. Are we going to see Ford's singles career start in earnest? For as much attention Sami Zayn has received lately, Cody and Paul Heyman gave the WrestleMania main event the sizzle it needed. The theme of Dusty's flesh and blood versus Dusty's son he always wanted is a great way to keep it from getting overshadowed. And thankfully, there was no tribal overrun to keep the cage match from main eventing. Bayley and Becky Lynch delivered, and it hit two birds with one stone. Becky got her receipt, and Lita's appearance makes Bayley's path to WrestleMania a little bit clearer. A win-win all around. Okay, so maybe he's suggesting he sees Lita working with Bayley going into WrestleMania.
Lita and Bayley, as a singles?
Possible, yeah.
I think that still leaves, the big question about Becky Lynch. And, even Lita Bayley, I'm not necessarily sensing it's the biggest sort of match for WrestleMania, but yeah, I mean, it's very possible. Yeah.
But a match you can put on a WrestleMania, and
yeah,
it could have a place. With Becky, it remains to be seen. It's not as though you have any lingering program. This felt like the wrap up of this program, unless you wanted to squeeze a tag out of it, which I just don't know where you would necessarily, how you would even do that. I mean, unless you want to just throw that onto the Chamber show.
I guess I just don't really understand the aversion to just booking Ronda versus Becky. It's a match they haven't done in a while. It's not for any sort of title, so you don't have to worry about that. Other than them, possibly wanting to save it for a future, pay-per-view, perhaps. But I feel like it's just right there. They could.
I don't think it's the hottest. It to me felt like probably last year was the time to do it. It doesn't feel as hot now, so I can see that they just have different directions for them at this point. And for all we know, they might have something big planned for Becky. I don't feel Becky is just going to be in some throwaway match. So yeah. I would admit, for all we know, there could be some big celebrity tie-in. She would definitely be a candidate for something like that. Mm-hmm. So I would imagine within, post-Chamber, that Monday after, we should probably have the key directions for all the major matches, and then it's just filling out a few empty slots.
Becky Lynch versus Beyonce.
Okay.
Possibly get at WrestleMania.
Okay, after she was disrespected, maybe Becky comes out. She's a Harry Styles fan.
Ooh,
agrees that he should have won Best Album.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Did you watch any of the Grammys?
No.
Yeah, neither did I.
You know what? I take that back. I'm going to watch that 50th anniversary of hip hop.
Yeah, I heard it was really good, but yeah. I did not see it.
But God, I see all this discussion, and I don't think I've listened to anything that was nominated this year, so it's not for me.
Okay, well, that's Wai's endorsement of the Grammys, but if you do check out any of it, Wai, you can report back to us. That is it. We have hit the time limit on my my ability to continue talking, but we all reset at midnight, and thus we will be back on Tuesday with Rewind Away covering February 15th, February 22nd, 1993, 2 episodes of Monday Night Raw coming your way at postwrestlingcafe.com. Jump in today. $6 gets you in the door for access to all of our bonus shows. And you will... How does it work, Way? You can sign up now and then... Never mind. I'm so tired now.
Well, what do you mean?
The billing cycle now is that
you get a month. You get a full month from the day that you sign up. If you sign up at through Patreon at postwrestlingcafe.com. Yeah.
That's what I was going for. Yes. You can explain it much better than
So I guess you're saying it covers the Elimination Chamber for when we go out there and do our coverage then. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes, that's exactly what I want to say. Before I say good night, goodbye, and we'll speak with you on Tuesday.